Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 14 of What If Naruto Was the Legendary Neglected Uzumaki. Remember to get this one to 100 like as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay tuned for the rest of what is coming your way over Anime King 2 and Anime King 3. If you're new, yes, you heard that correctly, indeed I have 3 channels. Anime King 2, Anime King 3, which I post what if on every single day for you guys to enjoy. So go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and your support. And yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last spot we left off, as Itachi returned back to the village, as he reported to Minato everything that happened with them and Orochimaru. It seems like Orochimaru tried to go after Shizu in the past, so he was trying to do the same thing, branding Itachi with that mark. But he didn't stand a chance with Itachi and Naruto being there. After that, as Itachi made his way, as he spoke to his father, a new force was going to be set up and his father was going to be the one leading it out there on the front lines. As he told Itachi that he would let Inabi handle most of the police force work, and Itachi was going to be the new clan head, just in case anything happened to him. Itachi was surprised because his father never talked about him dying before, but his father seemed quite, well, optimistic about the future, as he told Itachi that everything was already set. 2 days later, Naruto returned back to the village as he spoke to his father, as he had another mission, but he went to hang out with his sister first, as his little sister Karen had gotten into a lot of fight lately, as many people in the academy were saying that her brother was not as strong as she boasts he was, as she was always telling them, especially Sasuke, that her brother was the greatest. But seeing that Naruto has done a lot of negative things in the village, people were reflecting on his actions and sometimes the kids were nearby to hear what they had to say. But anytime someone talked bad about her brother, she beat them up. She then saw Naruto X as she didn't like Kurenai and wanted her brother's time. As Naruto met up with Kurenai, she just wanted help with something, as Naruto thought that she'd come for something else, but she told him that they were over. At the moment, she was now dating Asuma, as she watched his expression that didn't really change. After all, his eyes never opened wide enough for you to exactly see what was in them. As Naruto made his way towards the council meeting that was rather uneventful, as they were talking, the Stone and Kumo were gathering together, as it seemed like they wanted to attack Konoha all out. Minato was sure that Naruto was still angry, and yet he was so calm. Yes, Naruto was still angry about what happened to the Uzumakis, and not to mention the Stone being the one that hired the Akatsuki to take care of them, as Naruto told his father that he was gonna rain down vengeance on them, and he would not spare a single one, as mercy was for the weak after all. After that, Naruto made his way, as he went out on his mission. When he returned back though, as Minato had spoke to him about Tasumi, the girl was quite hostile with him at the meeting. As Naruto went to talk to Izumi first, his mother came by after he left, as Kushina was quite upset. He perhaps left because he sensed her presence coming, as Izumi told her that Naruto no longer needs a mother. Not in a bad way, but he just has grown so much, he become dependent on himself. But still, Kushina wanted to be there, but things were becoming strained between them, as she hardly see him nowadays. As Naruto made his way towards Inazaka compound, he had no idea that Hana was related to Tasumi. He had no idea. He knew that Tasumi had a son from his sister, as the boy was in his sister's class. But hearing that she had a daughter, and it was Hana, the girl that he's been with previously. But Naruto could not understand. Hana was a grown woman, so he did not understand why the woman was so angry at him. When she literally growled at him, he realized this wasn't going to be as quick as he thought. So yeah guys, that was basically as we left off. You guys can switch across the place, check it out for yourself. So to be in this new episode, things must still be resolved. You hold some resentment towards me, correct? Said Naruto. I wouldn't say I resent you, said Tatsumi, but I don't like you very much. It would be correct to say I'm just mad at what happened, and more so, that it happened with you. Hana is my only daughter, and seeing her hurt me as well. I am a mother, and it's my duty to protect my children. You have a sister. I'm sure you wouldn't want different boys doing it to her, as you do to other girls. As Tatsumi had her eyes on Naruto to see his reaction, but there was not even a single twitch, nothing to show that he literally heard her. He was just standing there, like a statue. Hana is not a child, you know, said Naruto after a while. Neither am I. There is so much a parent can do, but at a point children had to grow and make their own choices. Good or bad, parents just have to be there to be that helping, guiding hand when things become troublesome. Tatsumi snorted. He should be the last person telling her about parenting. He wasn't a parent and he wasn't all that great with parents. Listening to you talk isn't making me happy at all, but I do get that nothing that I say would change what happened. Perhaps the disappointment is that it happened with you of all people. You're not just any person. You're Naruto Uzumaki and the things that you represent. You mean my clan and my father's name near the axe. But I do not represent Namikaze. I am a Uzumaki, but I see from the villagers' perception, even as I go by Uzumaki. To the villagers, I will always be Namikaze, unless I change something. Jiraiya is a perverted old man, but people have become used to it, so it's no longer outrageous. For me, people always try to compare me with my father. Naruto didn't like that one bit, because it didn't look like he could escape that comparison. He wanted people to look at him for his actions, and not try to compare him to Minato just because he was his father's son. It was rather annoying and he didn't get rid of that picture. You don't really like that, huh? Said Tatsumi, smiling for the first time since he appeared in front of her. I get what you're trying to say, but as I said, I don't hate you. I'm just angry. And I don't like you. And I don't think I ever will. Nevertheless, this will not influence any decision that would need my personal opinion, she said. Time skip. Saruto become bound. The third Hokage, despite being known as a professor, he was smart, really smart, yet for all these years he could never figure out Naruto no matter what. The redhead was just a mysterious being in front of him that he could never crack. Of course he had certain thoughts about the redhead, and one of those at the top were Naruto did not possess the will of fire. Perhaps he was wrong though, but asking about it would be the only option that would give him any answers. But he wasn't brave enough to ask it directly though. What concerned him though that Naruto was not driven by the same principle that Itachi had, and his father. The redhead was a different entity, but he wasn't going to be swayed by anyone's word that easily. Naruto, the old man greeted with a smile as the blonde walked into his library. As Naruto smiled and nodded, his partially open eyes felt the stare of the old man. He hated dealing with a third, because of those eyes the man had that always tried to peer into his soul. That was one of the reasons why he never fully opened his eyes when looking at the old man. Smart people were a threat and he did not like them. It didn't mean they have to be destroyed. No, that was fine, he could deal with them. They did have their uses after all, and a world without cunning people would be boring and saddening. As Naruto looked towards the bookshelf, his eyes wandered through the labels as he pulled out a book named Fundamentals as he opened it. That's a great book for leaders, the third said. I guarantee if you read it, you will learn all that you can about leadership. Everything that is fundamental for a leader is within that book. As Naruto closed the book and placed it back, as he sat across from the third in a chair. I don't care for such books, he said calmly. I believe I could be great in my role, without leaning on other people's wisdom. I like to stand on my own feet and not rely on other people. Maybe I'm just self-absorbed or arrogant, said Naruto. Maybe, said Hiruzen. But I can assure you there is no man that can live on his own in this world. We all sometimes need each other, and we can't achieve anything without needing or relying sometime on the close ones near to you. I have lived a long life to be able to tell. Experiences make you understand, Hiruzen said. Some people learn through hearing and some people learn through experiences. And I have a ton of experiences, and I know a lot of trick about this life that we live. As Naruto tilted his head to the side, the third usually went off topic for a while, and Naruto was not going to entertain it. You were discussing leadership with me, said Naruto, as he was going to be carried into a conversation that he didn't want to have. But enough of that. What have you called me here for? Hiruzen did not offer his response immediately. It took a minute before he spoke. You are very different from your sister and father. You are unlike anyone else in your family. Yes, a very unique person indeed. I am not my father or my sister. Each person is unique, said Naruto. We cannot always be the same. I strive to be different anyway. Hiruzen smiled. No doubt also to stay away from your father's shadow. You have yet to fully escape that, but with the way that you're going, you will emerge above it. I beg to differ, said Naruto. No one compare me to my father. Not in this village, not in the stone or Kumo. I am known as Uzumaki Naruto, or simply Crimson Uzumaki. To say I have not escaped the shadow of my father is a misinterpretation of reality. Of course Naruto knew what he was saying was completely different from how he put it with Tazumi. Perhaps it was because that was on a personal level, and this conversation was different. He could escape the power shadow on a personal level, but when it comes to it, he couldn't really escape it in the end because Minato was still his father. Sarutobi couldn't help but laugh and Naruto respond. Forgive me for that, he said. I called you here to talk about your refusal to marry the 5th Mizukage and also your future here in Konoha. For most shinobis, doing what is best for the village come first. But what is your priority, Naruto? Asks Hiruzen. Is it Konoha, your clan, your family, your desires? What is it? I'm sure by now that you already made a few conclusions about me, said Naruto calmly. I will not answer your question. You're free to come up with an answer based on your observation. But as it stands, I'm a shinobi of the leaf, and I do not see that changing. As Naruto got to his feet, would that question lead you to question my loyalties? Third, if so, I am greatly insulted that you find it within yourself to question me. Sarutobi could not say anything, or that he achieved anything with this meeting as Naruto left. It looked like he just made things worse, or just made them bad. His relationship with Naruto had been just fine, but now he was sure that he was going to be indifferent. Perhaps he was losing his touch, and he should have left the redhead to his own devices. He was never able to get in touch with Naruto's feelings, as he had been with Itachi. Gone are the days that he could sit Naruto down and show him things about life. He has grown now. The only thing to do right now is watch, and saw how everything played out. Time skip, at the Uzumaki compound. As Naruto settled behind the decks, he was in the room that became his after ascending the clan head. As he was on paper on the decks, he had a blank expression in his face as he looked at the papers. With being clan head, he came with a load of paperwork, and he really did not enjoy it. But no one really enjoyed paperwork. You couldn't just sign off everything. You had to go through the fine prints, which shinobis not looking at finer details will get you into serious trouble. He normally had Izumi just look over the papers and he would stamp them, but with delicate work, he had to go over them as well. If only you were so serious about most things in life and focused as you are now, our life would be a lot better, said Izumi. As she walked into the room, she really liked this side of him that took his job as clan head really seriously. Although she was forced to carry most of the work when he wasn't around, he did his fair share of the work. When around, he took charge and he worked harder than she ever would. There was always some intensity the way he does his job, something that she appreciated very much. As Naruto tilted his head to the side, his eyelids partially open. What do you mean by that, Izumi? He said. Have I been making your life difficult? She shook her head as she sat down. I don't mean that you have made things difficult, or that things are difficult in any way. I just meant if you were serious to what you did, we wouldn't have much work to do. You can be a bit careless at times, and that doesn't really make things easy. He looked down towards the paperwork. When it comes to my work, I do things seriously, and I have no problem using all my efforts to get the work done. To be serious with other things is not a necessity. It just makes life too troublesome if you're too serious all the time. To enjoy life, you must loosen up a bit, but sometimes you have to become serious as I am now. As Naruto was sure that if he became serious all the time, the entire village would go into panic mode. But right now, when no one is around, he could be serious and do his work. She smiled. It was refreshing to hear him say something like that about life. Everyone wanted to enjoy life, including Naruto, something that she liked. I wish there was more to enjoy in life, she said. Your life, to be precise. We never had those moments anymore, where we all came together, your parents and your sister. It was fun when we used to celebrate our birthday together. As she looked at him, when are we going to have those days again? As Naruto looked towards her, as he did not hesitate. Probably never again, he said. We have all moved past those days. I have to say I did enjoy the family time, but those have just become memories. I have no hopes of it happening again, even though the entire family is still here. And why do you not have such hopes, Naruto-sama, she asked. He looked up. He did not say anything for a long minute. Who knows, he said. Perhaps all I see in the future is just blood and death. The only thing to really hold me is my dear sister. For her future, I can hope. The clan, you and my parents, you're all here in the present. I have a certain faith in me that we will all get to a certain point, and perhaps then we could smile together. She was curious about this point he was talking about. I dearly care for you and my parents, he said. There is a but, she said. She did not ask though, because she was sure not even he could answer that question. But there was something he could answer though. What is this point? Who knows, he said. It is possible, when he has achieved his greatest ambition and standing above all things. Itachi said as he slowly walked into the room. That is by no regards mean that he wants to become Hokage or anything in that regard. But, in personal looks, it seems that Naruto is a selfish person. Who isn't selfish, Itachi and Naruto asked. Everyone has an ideal that they want to preserve, and something out there that they want to protect. Human is willing to do anything to gain what they want. Even you is willing to commit murder to protect what you wish to protect. Whether wrong or right, we will do something to get what we want. That is just how life is. Well, there are those who sacrifice their ideals and everything just because they believe in other people. As Naruto had no such luxury, as he could not self-sacrifice, he could not do that. He knew what it takes. People like the third Hokage, that man, fought for days to protect his people against thousands of shinobi, and he fell as a legend. Naruto has not done anything yet, so publicly for people to understand his strength. Perhaps it's time that he started to play a little risky game. As he smiled. What are you thinking, Naruto? Itachi asked, seeing that smile. As Naruto looked at Itachi for a moment, before he looked down. I'm excited or amused by walking into dangerous situations or traps. I have always shied away from difficult situations and dangerous people. It would certainly change a lot of things. He did not fear death. What he mostly feared is defeat, as he was sure that if he lost a battle, he would surely lose every ambition to fight. He said it before, a defeat meant death to him, and his enemies would surely try to kill him. After all, he was someone that you did not leave alive, because if you did, as he simply looked back up. Amused is the wrong word. I say the right word is bloody excitement, Itachi said, as he looked towards Naruto. I have spilled a lot of blood. Perhaps I do take it to the extreme sometimes, said Naruto. Well, I'm a clan head now, so I must act the part. I must move with grace, not to the extreme. You're willing to change your fighting style, Itachi said. Naruto shook his head. It is just that when you're known as a bloodthirsty person, it is difficult to hold respect. People will always connect you to insanity, and that paint a bad image. Now you care about what people say about you? Izumi asked. She was surprised. I don't, he said. But for this clan, I have to do what I must. He then turned his head back to Itachi. How are things on your end? My father sitting up outside, Itachi said. Things are moving smoothly, and if things go well, we can experience some peace. I will have more responsibilities towards the clan, with my father being absent from the village. That should be no problem for you, said Naruto. You build yourself quite well. But this whole plan of setting up military police force outside is rather troublesome. From where I see, it will only escalate things and give enemies chance to take us apart one by one. What do you mean by that? Izumi asked. The elemental nations are not the only threats to Konoha. There is the Akatsuki and Orochimaru. And I'm sure Orochimaru has no nice thoughts about us. The Akatsuki is dangerous, as we know. Imagine if Tishikage plot with the Akatsuki and Orochimaru joining as well. On the outside there will be much losses. If you believe so, why did you not say anything during the council meeting, Itachi asked? My father told me that you did not object to it, but you only refused the marriage proposal. It wouldn't have mattered, said Naruto. Besides, I don't make decisions for the village. I will do what is required of me, and refuse to do things I don't want to do, he said. Itachi shook his head. This was the reason why people worry about him. It was his careless attitude towards certain things that would make other people worry, but yet, he never seemed to worry. Itachi knew that Naruto was not unstable. He may be extreme, but he wasn't as insane as people suggested. Izumi simply shook her head as she looked towards Naruto. Have you looked on the Hyuga cage bird seal? It didn't matter if they talked clan things, with Itachi present. The Uchiha was an ally, not an enemy, but she would not say everything in front of him. She was sure even he had his own secrets. I have, said Naruto. What brought you here, Itachi? He asked. We need to do something about Danzo. He's becoming dangerous by the day, and we have not forget what he did. With a war looming, we cannot alone the plot in the shadows. Yes, Naruto said, that's a matter that has to be dealt with. We have allowed this one to play along for far too long. We must deal with, as Naruto trailed off. As a red mask, Kunoichi dashed beside him. She was wearing a crimson cloak. She whispered a few words in his ear, as she then flashed off. Itachi was surprised, as he didn't know anything about the envoy of the Uzumakis. This was the first time he was seeing something like this, as he never saw a mass Uzumaki shinobi before. As the envoy captain and a member of the police force, he should know something like this. Perhaps the clan had kept this hidden from the village. The Uzumaki strength was supposed to be depleted, right? But if there was something like this, they must be hiding something. No one really knew what happened inside the compound anyway. Even till this day, Itachi did not know where the Kyubi was, or if it was in the compound. Is something wrong, Naruto-sama? Azumi asks. As Naruto got to his feet, there's a disturbance in the flow of wind. Itachi, you will have to excuse me. There are clan matters I have to handle. Izumi will keep you company until I return. I should go with you. If it's something dangerous, Itachi said. Clan matters, Itachi said Naruto. It is my responsibility to deal with trespassers in my compound. I will call you if I need you. As Naruto vanished, without another word, Itachi turned towards Izumi. What does he mean by that? I am sure that no one could infiltrate this compound without getting caught. What else is there that someone can trespass besides this place? The Uzumaki mass temple in the outskirts of the village. It may not have any value as it stands, but underneath it, there are our secrets, and well, as certainly true. Moments later, as Naruto walked through the dark passageway, as the place was lit with candles, one would be scared to walk down here because the place gave off a dangerous, dark, corrupted feeling. This feeling was brought on by a dangerous being, an eternal being trapped underneath the castle. But yet Naruto walked without a single tinge of fear rolling off him. This secret castle was supposed to be something that even the Hokage did not know, but Minato knew, because he was a member of the Uzumaki clan. For someone to discover it, it must mean that he had been digging for some time now. Yoshino had done well to preserve it. Even he did not know about it until the old woman was ready to kick the bucket. It was damn infuriating to know that someone could bypass the security that has been put in place. Blood was the first requirement to gain entry, but not just any blood. It had to be Uzumaki blood, a blood of the clan head. But that were just the first things. The real door to the secrets could not be opened, not by Minato, not by his mother. The only person who could open it was Naruto Uzumaki. It was unlikely that someone got his blood. He had made sure he never bleed during battle. There were times he did bleed, but no one should be in possession of his blood. Not even Izumi or Itachi. That left only one option. Someone had gotten a hold of his mother's blood back then, or Yoshino's. Only 3 people could enter the outer passage. His mother's blood was something else though. Could someone have managed to gain Yoshino's blood though, before she died? Ridiculous. That woman had seals activated to protect her own blood. His blood was not protected. But what could have happened? As Naruto came to a stop as he saw 2 shinobis standing over a visible barrier, he frowned at how far they had gotten. There was so many barriers around here, and it would take a long time for someone to reach the end castle. Root, said Naruto. There was no emotion in his tone or his face. I was wondering why Danzo was so quiet these days. Who could have thought that he was hunting down this place? How did you know, Naruto asked. The 2 turned to face him as one responded. We have our ways. You were slow to come here. We expect your reaction to be a lot quicker than this. Interesting. You knew you could not get through all the barriers without the help of a Uzumaki. So I can safely assume that you have been waiting for me, so that you can use me. None of the barriers affected Naruto since he was Uzumaki clan head. He could simply walk through the place without setting anything off. But if an intruder does set foot in this place, the alarm will go off, notifying the people. But he was basically a walking key. You're not as dumb as we thought, the other one said. But while that is surprising, it does not change anything. Naruto was here and he was their ticket to go further down. For now, they could not move any more further. It was just impossible because Naruto was a key. He was the exact key. They had studied the seals around the Uzumaki compound, and they had figured out how things work around the place. The compound was a fortress. When the security seals were placed up, you could not enter. Even if you did, you would be trapped. As Naruto opened his eyes fully. So you're trying to tell me I just walked in a trap in my own house? A smirk came on his face. I never thought anyone but Uzumaki would be skilled enough to get this far. No, it is impossible. Minato can, but Jerry cannot. I am missing something here. But what? The thought that he could have a traitor in the Uzumaki compound never crossed his mind. That was something that even the senile Yoshino deemed to be impossible. And if Yoshino said so, it had to be true. There was something important that he was missing. Who knows, one of the roots said. That is something you will have to figure out. Well, if you make it here with your mind, fully operational as it is now. As Naruto smiled, he was amused, so they did not plan to kill him. Well, if they could. They just want to weaken his mind. With a weakened mind, he could be controlled, and this matter would not be a big deal. But Danzo knew that he would not bring this up because this place was a secret. It would cause so much problem in the clan heads. If it became known that they were keeping the Kyubi in this place, Konoha would panic if it knew that the beast that nearly destroyed was lying in the outskirts of the village, and the clan would be faced some negative emotion. They had worked hard enough to get over that in the past years, and it is something that Naruto did not want to rise again, because this time he would surely just ignore it. Perhaps the plan to kill Danzo should have been done a long time ago. As he pulled out his blade, he did not take a step forward. The best way to resolve this is to just kill the both of you. Fu narrowed his eyes under his mask. This was his holy place, but he was not going to attack them first. Intel suggested when dealing with unknown forces, the redhead did not just jump into battle. Fu did not expect anything less. It would have been much easier if he just jumped towards them though. He didn't know anything about them, that meant they had the element of surprise. They knew all that they need to know about the redhead. He could make this work since the space around here was small enough to make his jutsu work perfectly. But he was not going to risk taking over the redhead. He was dealing with an Uzumaki here that was known for their phone jutsu art. Perhaps his mind would get trapped away somewhere if he tried to enter Naruto's mind, as Torun went through a hand sign and spewed purple smoke. It was poison, but he was sure Naruto did not know about it, as Naruto responded by releasing scorching flames from his mouth. As the two jutsus collided, there was a controlled explosion, but a bad smell was released, as Naruto covered his nose and mouth to avoid inhaling any more of his smell. Fu flashed beside Naruto in an instant, as he brought his Tonto down towards Naruto's shoulder. As Naruto blocked it with his own sword, Fu did not seem surprised, as Torun flashed towards Naruto, as Naruto caught the hand that was going towards his chest. As Naruto's eyes narrowed when Torun's hand turned purple, and some insects started to crawl up his arm. As one of them bit him, he released intense flames that incinerate them, and also Torun. But Torun poofed away, showing that it was a clone. As Fu flashed away, as Naruto looked towards his left hand, there was something wrong here. He could not see because of the bandage around his arm, but he had enemies to deal with right now, so he could not focus on it for too long. We can confirm that Kyubi is down here, and certain things, but Danzo Sama is only interested in the Kyubi. It is certain that we did not come to take it, but just to make a speculation. Fu sped off after saying those words, as Naruto found it would be a problem if Danzo brought this up to other clan heads. He'd probably let the news spread towards the villagers that the Kyubi was resting under the outskirts of the village. If the villagers lived in fear, he would be forced to do something. Even Minato would be backed against a corner. It was time for damage control. If things didn't go as he expected, he would just kill Danzo. Danzo was that mighty of a warrior that he had to worry about. It was his many lackeys that got in the way. As Naruto put away his blade and walked further in the depths of the underground castle, as the passage faint as a small light was at the end of the tunnel. As Naruto stopped at the end, at a large space down below him that was formulated with Fuinjutsu. Inside the hole that Naruto was looking at, there was a sizable version of the Kyubi lying down, his head resting on his palm. The area around it was a virtual world that had trees and grasses, but those things did not exist in the reality world. It was created to give the Biju something to think about, and give it a feeling that it was still within this world. It was technically a large-scale seal, because the Kyubi could not leave this place. It was restricted here by the seal that reduced its size, so it would remain here. A visit for my new warden, Grandma said, without lifting his head. He could sense the red head who had an indifferent feeling towards him. I have to say I'm blessed. This is your third visit. Your predecessors did not bother. As Naruto looked toward the Biju, perhaps it was a bit sad that it was forced to remain in here, but if they didn't do that, it would be chased all over by the humans, and then it would go on a rampage. My visit was brought on by a few nuisances trespassing, said Naruto. We have actually done good for you. Within my mother's seal you were bound in a painful way. Inside here you can breathe your own air and relax without human thought reaching you. I would say that you're in peace here. Peace? In a prison? As Kurama snorted, the only good thing here is, I don't have to worry about humans. But I've still been robbed of the sun. I have to say I've missed it. The Bijo put in the word calmly. You want me to show you the sun, said Naruto. I will see what will happen in the next couple of years. Maybe it can happen. I don't really fear what you can do, nor do I care about the things that you have done. To me, you're just a Bijo I was tasked keep guard. Kurama laughed. As he knew that Naruto meant what he said, Kushina would have been saying that he was too dangerous to roam free and she had to keep him at bay. Before he could speak, Naruto was already walking away. As Kurama returned back to thinking about how he could free himself, the damn Uzumaki had made a powerful seal, but he could not be whole forever. The fact that Naruto did not come here often meant he can work on weakening the seal without anyone noticing. He would free himself. Time skip. Uzumaki compound. Itachi looked at Naruto. As he heard Izumi correctly, he wished that she should go into details, but she did not. But this was serious. As Naruto returned quicker than expected, and his expression was blank. Completely so. Itachi knew that Naruto would not lie to him, as Naruto was many things, but he was not a liar. So he would just have to wait until the red head opened his mouth. As Naruto sat down, Itachi, we will discuss Danzo in a couple of hours. I'm sure in a few moments, I will have more than one reason to want him dead. Itachi was sure that it was Root or Danzo who did the trespassing. Izumi, call my mother. I wish to speak to her now, said Naruto. Izumi nodded. She made her way off. This must be something serious. Then again, if it had something to do with the Kyubi, which Danzo has always been after, he has always been voicing his thoughts that the Kyubi should use for the betterment of Konoha, and in a matter such as this, he would voice his complaints even more. There is no problem that can't be solved, said Naruto. Consequences might be there, but all problems can be solved. It's just how you handle those consequences. I am willing to do anything for Konoha, but I will warn you though, there are backlashes of the actions that you take, and some people will be affected, whether or not you do them. As Itachi stood up, as Naruto called him after he handled his meetings, as he made his way off, on his way out he came across Kushina, as he greeted her before disappearing. As Kushina sat down in front of Naruto with Izumi on her right side, Izumi had been clear on Naruto calling her. It was like her son was summoning her. What is it, Naruto? She asked. As Naruto looked at the space between the both of them, Danzo has discovered the underneath of the mass temple. Right now, I'm sure that he's about to call a council meeting, and I will be called soon enough. Izumi was surprised that Danzo would take that path. She could never reach a conclusion because probably it was because she didn't know Danzo as Naruto knew the War Hawk. Besides, the both of them think in two different ways. Kushina frowned. She didn't think that this was going to be happening soon. We agree with the council that the Kyubi was our responsibility, and anything it does, we will take action for it. Do you think they will push for us to do anything different? Naruto nodded. If Danzo bring forward a sufficient argument, the situation outside the village is not favorable at the moment. We might be facing the 4 Bijus, and the village does not have a Jinchuriki. We're at a severe disadvantage. With the loss of a sealing core, I cannot put any logical argument that they will be forced to believe or accept. This was indeed a problem. The reason they did not seal a Biju, because they didn't want anyone in the clan suffering from the fate of being a Jinchuriki. Given what the Kyubi did and the resentment towards it, anyone that hold it would be, well, receiving a lot of unwanted hate. Kushina had the choice of allowing it to be sealed back within her or Naruto. He had still been young enough. But the Biju that was sealed in the temple was only half, and the other half was somewhere else. They could not just seal a whole Biju in something if it wasn't a Jinchuriki, because if they had tried that, the seal, it could not hold him. The beast was too powerful to be sealed, just like that. So they had to separate it in half, and seal the other half somewhere else. What then, she asked. I don't know. I will decide after hearing where the wind is blowing. We still have our hold over the major players, so they won't do anything drastic yet. I just want to inform you of this, so that you can be prepared for anything. But for now, I won't agree to anything I won't like, he said. I see, said Kushina. She had complete trust in Naruto that he would do what is meant for the clan. Once again, a female masked Uchiha appeared as she whispered something in his ear before vanishing. Danzo had forced the meeting and he says he got to his feet. I will walk you out, said Izumi. Once they were out of the room, she spoke. How did things go? Not well, said Naruto, as he held his left arm. As he removed the bandage, the left arm showed some dark purple spots on it. I might be poisoned. It's dangerous, they hurt in my hand. His left hand was already burned, that is why it was in bandages, but the purple spots were popping up. For now, I have stopped it from spreading. but at the cost of my hand usage. I need you to create a seal that will hold us together. My solution is only temporary. As Naruto left her puzzle, it was enough that both of his hands were burned, but now one of them were poisoned. But he didn't seem like nothing was going on, as he was so calm despite everything, because he would never show weakness. Time skip. Council chambers. Since Minato arrived in the hot seat, Danzo has never had a day as wonderful as this, as Minato was always having some sort of response, having something to pull over him whenever he tried something. But today was his day. Years he was forced to sit back and just watch, not doing anything. He could not intervene, but now he could. As Danzo had a plan to get whatever he wanted, the council might say no, but his plan would still work without them. Why were we forced into this meeting, Danzo? Sarutobi says he sat down, around the table where the clan heads were, and the elders. The only one not there was Uchiha clan head. Fukaku wasn't in the village, so he could not be here. The third knew that it was something serious that Minato would agree to it. Danzo could not call an emergency meeting, as long as Minato could deny him. This only meant that Minato agreed with the plan to call a meeting. But what could have forced Minato's hand? I have come across some disturbing discovery that may affect the village security, and perhaps even our future. If it sounds as serious as you make it sound, wouldn't it be better if we hold it with Fukaku present? Said Shikaku. Out of everyone besides the Hokage and the Uzumaki, he is responsible with the village security. We cannot talk security without him. There were a few nods. It didn't matter if the man was outside the village. After all, they had a quick solution how to bring him here. It doesn't matter if he's present or not, said Danzo. But it would be best if he was brought so that he could give us an idea how to handle the situation. You have made him in charge of our security after all. As he looked towards Minato as he spoke, Minato didn't like how Danzo said those words, but he had no choice but to bring Fukaku back for the meeting. As Minato flashed away in a yellow flash, the room was silent. No one said a word, waiting for Minato to return with Fukaku. Shikaku sighed just to breathe ice. No one wanted to say a single word. This was rather troublesome. What could be so important we had to be dragged into the meeting? Hayashi said, in a demanding tone as he looked towards Danzo. Everyone wants to know, said Choza, as he turned towards Naruto. Don't you know anything? I don't like to be sitting here without information. Inoichi nodded. The Uzumaki clan also deal with village security. They are our first line of protection. Before the Uchiha knows there's a threat in the village, your clan firstly knows. Naruto did not look at any of them. He didn't even have his eyes open, so it's not like he could stare at them. You deal with intelligence gathering as well. You should also know. He threw the same card back towards Inoichi. If they were going by logic, then Inoichi should know as well. If I knew something, I wouldn't have been asked anything, said Inoichi. Then if I knew something, I would have started. Speaking already, said Naruto. I don't want to be here in this atmosphere. It's not good for my happiness. Before anyone else could say anything, Minato flashed back with Fukaku. Once the two had settled, Minato face-turned serious. Danzo, I will allow you to do the talking because you were the one that brought this to my attention. But where you are lying, I will stop you. We will discuss everything and I will consider what everyone proposes. But ultimately, I will have the final say. Danzo wasn't afraid, even though Minato just basically said that he was a Hokage and could accept it or deny it. He had the final say, but Danzo had everything planned out already. He had everything prepared. Earlier, my man found something dangerous lying under the Uzumaki temple. I was baffled to find out that the Uzumakis have been so careless to place the Biju outside the village when the world is no like this. The beast kept underneath the temple is not just any Biju, but the most powerfulest out of every Biju. All eyes turned towards Naruto. No one knew that it was still there. They figured it was in someone. Yoshino herself said it back there, that it was best within the Jinchuriki. She said it so firm that everyone believed it quickly. Is this true? Yes, said Naruto. I understand the worries, but so far, there hasn't been anything to prove that the Biju is there. We didn't even know. That is just one way to assure that the seal is safe for Konoha. Said Shikaku, before we come to conclusions, we have to narrow down the risks of displacement. There's only one risk, and that is if our enemies get hold of the Biju. I was able to find out and we're talking about it now. How long do you think it will take for our enemies to find out and try to go after it? And what if they do take it? The Uzumakis can no longer boast about having the power to solve the Biju problem. They have no power, said Danzo. It would be disastrous if our enemies got hold of the Biju, Koharu said in a small nod. We have to think about the village security. Kumo and the stone have a combined power of 4 Biju. and that includes the second strongest beast. If our enemies get hold of the Kyubi, we will be facing a massive disadvantage. Just imagine it, 5 Bijus surrounding this village. Who will be the one to stand against their power? That just paints that pretty grim picture. And to add it to the point already made, Danzo spoke. We cannot spare our military power to protect the Kyubi when the Kyubi should be protecting this village. It will be really foolish to protect the beast while it is kept away down there. The Bijou should be used to protect Konoha, not deplete our shinobis and threaten it. Our military powers are stretched as thin as it is, and we have enough enemies. The Sand hasn't proved to be a good ally to help us within war. So far, his behavior has been untrusting and we cannot look towards it for support. Neither can we look towards Kira as well. At this point, Konoha require for the Kyubi to be used, even if our enemies don't get it. What do you think the villagers will say? Or the way they will react if they ever find out about this, said Danzo. Do you think there will be any calm within this village? Definitely not, said Tasumi. We have to move the Kyubi from that location. We do not have any assurances that our enemies will not know. We have lived long enough to know that nothing can remain hidden forever. I have to agree with you on that note, said Inoichi. It was really irresponsible for the Uzumakis to make that decision. The chaos that will cause if that was discovered. We cannot have something like this at this moment when our enemies can take advantage of it, said Hayashi, as everyone seemed to nod in agreement. Taking that path would leave us wide open for the Bijou to be stolen at that moment. The Bijou is safe. If it was not Danzo would have taken it, said Shikaku. Taking it to another location means we'll have to remove the barriers from around it. Naturally, that will make that a lot difficult to deal with, said Shikaku. But not impossible, Danzo said. I'd be willing to have all my root agents stand in guard while the process occurs. When Kushina was given birth for the second time, we thought that we had all the protection that we have and the security, but someone was still able to bypass, said Hiruzen. A safer method would be to make a Jinchuriki, said Danzo. We have no need for that, and I don't think anyone would be willing to offer their children for that, said Minato. I have a child that will be more than willing to take it in. It is for the betterment of Konoha. I can assure you I will train that child for Konoha, protection and safety. I cannot agree giving the Kyubi to you, said Fukaku. You have been after it for a very long time now, and giving it to you right now just makes all the arguments null and void. I have proof that the villagers are planning to attack us. At this stage, we need to strengthen our military power with a Jinchuriki. We are going to war and will be against Bijus. We need our own Jinchuriki. Unless any of you can claim that you can fight 4 transform Biju at the same time without let any damages happen to the village around you, then by all means, Danzo said. Everyone was silent. How do you plan to deal with this, Naruto? Asked Minato, as all heads turned towards him. It is quite simple, Naruto said. I will become the Jinchuriki. That solves everything. When my mother was carrying me, I had contact with his chakra. My body should be familiar to it. Does anyone have a complaint to that? Naruto had no plans of becoming a Jinchuriki. After all, there was 2 pieces of power, and combining them together and trying to create a Jinchuriki would be a tremendous force, and the Biju would no doubt try to escape. The offer would just quiet things down for now. Danzo would not be fooled, but he couldn't say anything about it for now. And before he could make any noise, Naruto would just kill him. It was your clan that was against making a Jinchuriki, and now you want to become one. Now, and willingly, said Shibi as he looked towards Naruto carefully. Everyone was surprised, even Minato was surprised. He did not expect this at all. Obviously, the Kyubi cannot be given to Danzo, and unless any of you are willing to give your children up for that rule, I will take the consequences and the burden that follows. If he's willing to become a Jinchuriki, then I see no problem. We just must be informed when it's going to happen, and I see no one more capable than holding the Biju back than Naruto, Inoichi said. It might be out of fear why he said that, as he thought about his young daughter holding that dreadful beast back. But Naruto was a Uzumaki, and he had the most strength to hold that beast back. I think we can all agree to that, said Fukaku. That should solve the problem of safety toward the Biju. Since he's a Uzumaki, he should have a good handle on his powers and keep it at bay. That is just one of the matters handled. We must discuss the situation between Kumo and the stone. Minato glanced towards Naruto. He came up with a solution, but he was sure that his son did not want to become a Jinchuriki. It would be a problem and power would be great, but Naruto did not like giving power. If he did great things because of the Kyubi power, people would not recognize him as he was. He only brought up that because he wanted to keep the clan heads quiet. He just wanted to shut down Danzo. Everyone seemed to agree that Naruto can take this great burden, said Minato, surprisingly. Danzo did not object. In fact, he merely kept calm, and that made Minato worry. He was planning something, or perhaps he had something already planned out. Jiraiya have also informed me about the stone in Kumo. The reason creating the military force outside of Konoha was to counter this. In this way the village would move with us knowing. But now we have to create a way to counter that. At the moment they cannot get into the fire borders without us knowing. We have made sure of that. Are we still gonna play defensive? Danzo asked in a quiet tone. Well, I guess we cannot afford to branch out and attack. Command a large force go out and attack will leave the village wide open for attacks. But we have the right weapons for war. If we can move carefully, we can weaken the enemy without using much of our strength. Time skip, a few minutes later in the office. What were you thinking? Fukaku demanded as he looked towards Naruto. Sternum. I never thought that you would agree to something like that. Nevertheless, I have no doubt that you don't want to become a Jinchuriki, and Danzo also knows that. And that will bring us to the question why he did not object, said Hiruzen in a quiet tone. Danzo was calm about everything and that was strange. He had something planned. The emergency meeting was to see who he can count on for support. With the way everything went, it was shown that most clan heads don't have that high opinion of you. They were quick to jump into your offer because it saved their children, and they thought that it fit your personality. Spineless coward, said Naruto, with a shake of his head. This has been something else, and I have a lot to think about. Excuse me, as he simply left. As Naruto came to a stop when he saw Danzo, but his movements reactivated the next second as he continued to walk, as Danzo walked behind him. As he left the tower, Danzo spoke. I have the antidote to the poison on your left hand. You won't find it anywhere else, and if you allow the poison to remain there, it will eat your flesh. For someone like you, I assume the loss of your entire hand will ruin your goal. You don't care about anything. It should not be a problem if I have the Kyubi. It's your reason for living, and your goal or the Kyubi. You made the choice, Danzo said, but you don't have much longer to wonder about it. Give me the Kyubi, and you can continue on. And with that, Danzo walked away. As Naruto continued to walk, he did not say anything, he just walked. This man was starting to annoy him. It's time that he died. His root forces didn't have to be killed off. They could be used. After all, they were still loyal to the village. They were just puppets. As he arrived back to the compound, as he sat down, he placed his left hand on the table. Back so soon, Izumi said as she walked inside. I thought you'd be locked up in the chambers, making arguments with other clan heads. That would be too much of a hassle. There are just too many of them, and I cannot see myself debating that long. It will possibly end with insult and threats, on their part at least. At such, I try as much as I can to avoid such situations that would lead to pointless threats. Then how do things go? Izumi asked. The spineless cowards ran into the motion of the Kyubi, lying in the outskirts of the village, and they were ready to jump the ship when I suggested them offering their children to make Jinchurikis, when it was agreed that Danzo could not get the Bijou. That is not an easy decision one could make on the spot, Naruto. You have a lot of things that you had to think about before doing something like that, because it will not only change everyone's future, but you will have to think about that child as well. His or her future would be changed in drastic ways. Not to mention with war on the horizon, that children will be treated like a weapon for war. They are just hypocrites. They speak about sacrifice from the village, but when the time comes they cannot make any, said Naruto. But when someone offers a sacrifice, they hail him as a hero for it. I'm sure if my father was forced to make a sacrifice, he would have made either Karin or me a Jinchuriki. That man would sacrifice everything, said Naruto. Izumi looked at Naruto for a few moments. Its words were cryptic but not so hard to figure out. Did you offer to become the Jinchuriki? She asked. With Naruto you could never know. As she watched as he simply nodded. But guys, be in subscribe right here. If you want to see the next part, then do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on that bell notification to stay posted. But for now, see you guys soon. Peace.